And coming to you live from, I guess, Tim, you're in Ulan Bataar, Mongolia, and in some type of hostel, it appears. We've got Tim Foley on the line
Yeah.
via Skype from Mongolia, which, Tim, before I even start this, I got to say, this is the second Skype phone call I've made to Mongolia in the last month and a half. I haven't made that many
I remember
Skype. I
you
haven't made that many Skype phone
made the
calls.
first one, yeah.
I haven't made that many Skype phone calls to Poquoson, Virginia, in that same amount of time. So anyway, let's give a quick update. We saw some videos that you had posted on the Wrestling Roots about basically you wrestling in. I don't even know how to say it. How do you say that event you participated in? The
Oh, I
Shayuan.
was in I was in the Shaanxi province of Mongolia, not to be confused with the Shaanxi province, by the way. And I was wrestling Shuaijiao, which is basically the word for wrestling in China.
And some of the video looks like you seem to perform pretty well over there with not having ever seen the style of wrestling before.
I mean, editorial preference. I can do what I want. But yeah, no, it was no, it was great. I think I leaned in their favor a little bit. I mean, how do you say this with tact? I had no idea what I was doing. When someone puts a gi jacket, and that was like a short sleeve gi jacket on you, things change completely. And then when they tell you that you can't put your hand on the ground, I mean, I'm a mat wrestler. I'm not much of a stand up guy. So it even the playing field pretty dramatically.
Well, what's been the biggest thing so far? You've been over there a couple weeks now, other than your flight delays in getting there.
Mm-hmm.
What's been the funnest thing so far you've had to experience?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't really love China through and through. The food was less than, I don't know. There's certain things about China that I loved. My brother's father-in-law was there. We had a great time. A former world team member, Roger Olson, lives in Beijing, and I can't explain to you how kind he was. He opened it, and my girlfriend for a week gave me a translator. It wouldn't have been doable without Roger. So I think a lot of those personal relationships that were made or strengthened over the period of time that I was in China were awesome. But I think sort of maybe pulling into Mongolia on the Trans-Siberian Railroad, looking out the window and seeing, horses on the hill and herders tending to their flock of sheep, or just it's a dramatically beautiful place. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say that it was the most shocking thing I've seen, or the most beautiful thing I've seen.
So already you're seeming to get a lot of good information for your Wrestling Roots to Travel book, which is kind of the
Yeah.
inspiration for this entire
Yeah.
mission, so to speak. I guess that's what it is. Also coming up, you're going to check out some Mongolian wrestling, but in terms of the book, we'll talk about the Mongolian trials coming up here in a second. But as far as is there anything that's come out, jumped out at you going, wow, I didn't even think about writing about this or even having an idea about this, and that's just going to go on, I'm going to definitely need a chapter or two to explain what I just saw?
Yeah, I think a lot of the book is going to deal with me bouncing what I've seen in Mongolia off of what I experienced in America as a wrestler myself. I think that's maybe the best way to portray it to readers, is to say I'm getting a fresh perspective. I'm 7 years out of competing, 8 years out of competing, and just sort of dredging up some of those memories. Because I don't care what anybody says. When someone says put you in the center of a mat and says you're about to wrestle, it changes your perspective. If you're a competitive person, you instantly get competitive, whether it's a 60 kilo Chinaman or a 180 kilo Mongolian.
Was that politically correct? Can you say that?
Dude, Chinaman is not the preferred nomenclature. I was actually emailing with Clay Guida about that. The guy loves the movie The Big Lebowski. People call him the dude all the time, and he really enjoyed the use of Chinaman. But yeah, you're not supposed to use that term.
Well, speaking of the Big Lebowski, we had a staff function last week, and Larry Nugent kept foot fouling, and you don't know how many times I had to blurt out, "Over the line, market zero." But that being
Market
that,
Zero.
yeah,
This is a nom. Yeah,
yeah.
great movie.
But I digress. In terms
Yeah.
of back to the original question, like you said, you're seeing them, you're wrestling the Mongolians, putting in the center of the mat. But anything out there that's just what you did not expect so far?
Um,
Maybe a
gosh,
Brook Point soccer shirt or something floating around Ulan Bataar.
oh. Know what I didn't I did I mean I guess one of those things that I assumed to be true by deciding that I was gonna fly myself across the world was that wrestling was really important to Mongolians. And it's really important. And something I'll cover in some blog posts and some writing here coming up is I went to a camp this past week already. I went out to a wrestling camp, which I could not have done without. Do you know? I'm sure you do. You know, Talk Lusendorf. His father is a saint and drove me out to the traditional wrestling camp, traditional Mongolian wrestling camp for Usak Bayar, who is the four-time Naadam champion, which is the big summer wrestling festival. It's their NCAA's. It's their everything. It's their NBA finals. It's their Super Bowl. And he's won it 4 times, the last time in 2009. And his father showed up. We had a bottle of vodka and some water and some gifts, and asked if I could join his camp, and he said I could. And I was able to train for about a day, and then it started raining, and wrestling's an outdoor sport. So I headed back to Ulan Bataar to get ready to watch Chertog try to make the Mongolian world team. So that's a pretty big deal. I think he's got a really good shot. I saw him wrestling with the number 2 guy, or the number 1 guy rather, and so I think he's got a really good shot. So yeah, basically this is maybe the most interesting thing I saw was today I got a ride back to Ulan Bataar with Usak Bayar, and to explain him as the Jordan of wrestling would do a disservice to him and his popularity in this country. I showed up to my hostel and I was trying to explain to her why I needed a room, and then I said Usak Bayar, and I showed her a picture of us at Mongolian wrestling camp, and it opened every door. Done, no problem, instantly. It was like the magic. It was like a password.
So right now, speaking of your living arrangement, we see a bunk bed behind you. I'm not sure how well of an angle you can give us, but you're on the floor. You said you need to get some blood flow through the legs, but how much is what's the logic like? Most people think Mongolia as, kind of more of its historical roots. It's a nomadic culture. They don't expect, one, technology. Any misconceptions that you're also ready to debunk about the parts of the world you've been traveling through?
Yeah, Mongolians are. I think Mongolians get the Mongolian hordes and Mogul and all these words, Tartars, that are sort of reference to Mongolians to mean, nomadic terrors. I think they're once called the scourge of the earth. These are the nicest people, as a culture, I've ever met in my life. To a person, the nicest people. And I think if there's one rumor you can dispel, it's that, calling people Mongoloids and all that kind of stuff is just, obviously it's politically incorrect, to which I really don't care most of the time. But, I think it's really opened up my mind. These people I think a lot of them are Buddhists now, which I think has some influence on it, but just could not be sweeter people. So that's the first thing I want to debunk. The second is, half of the country lives in Ulan Bataar, and then the other half live nomadically. Or they don't necessarily live nomadically, but they live. I think a quarter are true nomads. Another quarter live in the countryside, and if they do live nomadically, only do so in the summer months for a brief period of time to move their herd or their flock to better grazing grounds. Like today, it was so disappointed that I couldn't wrestle, but then you could see the herders were so happy because, all this rain meant that more grass was going to sprout up and they were going to have healthier herds coming into winter. So it's been cool. That's been cool.
What about the animal culture? I mean, obviously there's animals over there you'll never see in the United States unless they're in a cage in a zoo. Anything? Have you seen any yaks, or is that just that not part of the world? I mean, I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to the cultural geography of said region. So
I don't. There hasn't been any sort of. No, there hasn't been a ton of animals. Eagles are more common than they might have been in America. So I've snapped a few photos of those. But no, I mean, I think also I've only been like 90 kilometers outside of the city so far. The big traveling portion of the trip starts. Actually, Jason, it starts on my 30th birthday. Wouldn't you know?
Well, I turned 30. I can relate. My 30th birthday I spent on a safari in South Africa. So hey.
Oh, you're trying to one up me. All right.
Yeah, I'm that
All right.
guy. Sorry. You know,
You're
I don't
that
know. You
guy.
know what? South Africa, Mongolia. Let's think about this. Each have their own benefits in terms of
They
cool
do.
stories to tell to people.
Yeah.
I want to
I
go
think I'm.
because half the reason I want to go to Mongolia is because I'm jealous of you getting to go over there, and I know how great the wrestling is. I was like, man, I'd like to go to Mongolia. Why?
Yeah.
I've done interviews with people from Mongolia now twice in a month. So, I mean,
Uh,
I feel like there's a tie there. I think I need to come with you the next time you go to Mongolia.
come with. It's no, it's honestly it's beautiful. I mean, the city of Ulan Bataar leaves a little bit to be desired. I don't think these are people that were meant to live in cities. It can be a little ramshackle at times, but it's being improved constantly. Tons of construction. But yeah, the countryside. I mean, there's some animals that maybe I think I'm gonna run into that I wouldn't see otherwise. I think there's a large population of marmots. But really, so far not so much. I lived in a gare for the last 3 days. Those sort of like beehive looking tents that you might also equate with Mongolia, which were super comfortable. I mean, obviously, if one person wants to stay out until 11:30 and somebody else wants to go to bed at 9:30, it's not totally conducive. But 4 or 5 heads living in one of those gares can it's nice. It's a nice community experience. I'll tell you one thing that I did see, and this will definitely make it into the book, is wrestlers are very physically affectionate with each other. Would you agree with that, Jason?
Other than maybe when I'm overseas and I see the officials kissing each other and I go, hey, just kiss that guy.
I know.
I throw that line
No,
from
but I
Super
mean, if you
Troopers
see
out.
like, you're an ODU fan. If you see two ODU wrestlers, outside of cutting weight or in season, if you're at their apartment, it's not totally uncommon to see these guys. I don't want to use this term because it's going to bring hell on me, but cuddling.
No,
It's not.
no.
It's not. It's
That's
not
definitely not an
completely-
American thing. I don't think that's an American thing at all. I think we're too.
Oh,
No, I think as a society we're
I
too.
disagree.
We're
I
too
see it all
concerned
the
about
time.
our
I've
personal
seen it
space.
at
There's a
Columbia, I've
difference
seen it at
between
VA.
there's a difference between laying on the mat next to somebody than spooning on a couch. I'm not going to agree with you on that point.
I'm not going to say okay. I'm not going to say they're spooning. But I mean, you see a lot of times, wrestlers. We're
Where's
very
this going,
physically-
Tim? Where are you going with this?
I'm getting there. We're very comfortable in touching. There's no good way to say that word. We're good with human contact. We're good with because that's what we do. We wrestle each other all the time. And one thing I've seen in Mongolia is the same way. It's like these guys, being physically affectionate is it's no like there's no like oh you must you're somehow weaker than everybody else. It's like the biggest guy in the room is given just hugging another guy just sitting there in conversation. It's just very common. And I think that's something that maybe it feels uncomfortable to talk about in this conversation, or maybe we're sort of joking about it because we feel like queasy or something. But it's very true. Wrestlers share a bond and are able to be physically affectionate with each other more than other sports. Now, I don't want to physically affectionate.
I think the term affectionate's the one where I think we're struggling on.
No,
right
I
now.
think that's it. I think that's I know what that conjures up, and I'm a writer. I should come up with a better word, but it's true. I mean, it's a way of showing affection for another person. I appreciate you as a human, and I'm going to go ahead and give you a hug. And I think that that's just a small.
Kyle
That's just-
Klingman would
yes.
totally enjoy this conversation because he always says, Jason, you never give anybody hugs. So
This might be why you're so uncomfortable with the conversation, Jason. Do you need a hug?
yeah, all the way from Mongolia.
Yeah, I'm sure
I'll go
we can
downstairs
call-
and give Ryan Johnson a hug later.
There you go. No, I mean these guys as soon as I walked in, they don't just like shake your hand and say. I mean maybe the first time, but after that it's pulling underhooks and single legs and.
Okay,
And,
that I definitely agree with because I don't know.
Well, Jason, you don't
can
see
get around
baseball
a
players
house and
doing
somebody
that.
like wants to pull a snatch single at the bar or something. I mean that happens all
but
the
I
time.
mean this is yeah exactly. I mean so basically that's one of those sort of themes that I've been able to find a little bit of research about and it's a very big part of their culture, not just the wrestlers, but throughout their culture, physical touch, which isn't surprising when you consider it's a nomadic culture and their history of dealing with other humans is very limited. So, you want to sort of create the strongest bonds possible and understand who you're dealing business with and whatever.
Have you had any discussions with Tug or anybody else that's associated with American wrestling on why? Obviously you had the wrestlers at St. John's like Mogi Bataar, Minga Batsuk, and then Bognup at George Mason, Tug at the Citadel, why they come to the United States to wrestle. Obviously, all of them came through St. Benedict's Prep in New Jersey. But has there been any discussions on why Turtugtug ended up in the United States or any other Mongolians for the same reason?
Yes, but you'll have to buy the book.
Aha, good pitch.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it too. I mean, I think, again, this is the thing, Jason. It's so hard. I'm promoting the book. I'm trying to talk about this idea, the website, and I'm trying to change in a little bit the way Americans think about wrestling. And it's going to be a long process. It's going to be a lot of interviews and writing, but this is not a coincidence that these guys are ending up in America. There's a reason. And, it's not too dissimilar, I don't imagine. I don't really have the research to back this up. It's probably not too dissimilar from why the Japanese were here in the 70s, in the 60s. Tadaki Hara, right? Did I say that right?
Yep.
And the other Japanese wrestlers that came through in the 60s, in the 70s, it's all related. It all has a reason, and we'll delve into that a little bit in the book too. But Turtugtug is, he's a guy who I've spent a lot of time with the past week, and I can tell you feels very fortunate to be in the situation he's in and has really big goals for himself.
We're talking with Tim Foley via Skype all the way from Ulan Bataar, Mongolia. So, Tim, what's the next thing coming up for you before we have to get back to our day? It's nighttime over there. It's daytime here. I don't want to look like a slacker, but what's
Jason,
next for you there?
We got 20 minutes left on this conversation, Jason. No, the next thing here is tomorrow. Oh, I'm hopefully I'm trying to get an article in ESPN about the women's wrestling in Mongolia. It's a really fascinating story about how in 10 years they've gone from starting a program to a world champion, and it looks like they're going to be sort of the new powerhouse. I mean, if you look across the board, they're just so strong. And having been at practice with them, I can tell you right now that they are exceedingly talented. But it's also interesting when you compare it to the Mongolian history for wrestling, and also it's a very masculine culture, and how men in this country have responded to the strength of women. It's very unique, I think. So that's one thing I'll be doing tomorrow, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I'm going to be covering the World Team Trials for Mongolia. I want to see Turtugtug's going to be wrestling at 84 kilograms, and then there's a couple other guys that I met at camp who are going to be wrestling, including just a couple other people. And so I'll be uploading that information, and then on Monday, I'll be Monday. I'll be heading back out to camp, Usak Bayar's camp, to train for a week in Mongolian wrestling before heading 9 hours out to the Arkhangelsk province to prepare for districts, which will be a tournament, Mongolian wrestling tournament, and then for the Nadam, which happens, I believe, July 11th.
So you'll be finishing up right about the time we get ready for Fargo out here.
Yeah, July 11th and 13th. I'm going to be dressed up. I don't know did I show you the hat?
No, just yikes.
Yeah, it's the hat. It's part of the ceremony. It's you wear it going into the ring. The referees take it from you, and after you wrestle, they put it back on your head. So it's a pretty fascinating thing. I had to buy the entire wrestling outfit from that to the jacket to the what looked to be Speedo shorts, the boots, the whole thing. So taking this thing pretty seriously. I've been trying to eat like a Mongolian the last few days. It hasn't worked. I haven't put on any weight. And that being said, I would eat as much as humanly possible, and they would still mock me as they got seconds and thirds. I'm not exaggerating. These are like 300-pound dudes, all of them. All of them. They're huge. They're enormous. They're going to break me.
I really have nothing to add to that because at one point I was a 300-pound dude, but that's not over there.
Yeah. These guys are they're incentivized financially to do well, and I think also more importantly than that, doing well in this Nadam tournament that occurs during the summer, especially the big one in Ulan Bataar, earns you a ranking for life. So you're forever known within the 1.8 to 2 million Mongolians. You have a ranking. I mean, you're sort of ranked as a man, If you're able to make it to the fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth rounds, you earn different rankings. So, I mean, it's a fascinating culture, and one that I'm getting a lot of help navigating from Jack Weatherford, who wrote I think it was the National Book Award winner. Maybe it wasn't, but it was. He wrote a book called Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World, and which has sold 4 or 5 million copies. I met with him a couple days ago, and he's been sort of my guide through Mongolian culture. It's just fascinating. It's fascinating how much they elevate wrestling, and I wish it's something. I really think it's a lesson we can bring back to America. We're never going to be as popular as football or baseball, or basketball, but we can occupy a different role, and we can make it our own, in my opinion.
Have you had any conversations with any, for lack of a better term, the expats or any U.S. People out there you might have encountered in Ulan Bataar about wrestling as a whole?
There's a few expats here. I haven't really seen a lot of them. I've just been with Talk mostly. I had previously had some conversations with some people online to meet up with. But yeah, there was a kid. I say kid, he's 18, but a guy named Zeb Stewart who's going to VMI next year.
Yeah, he's from Brookville.
Yeah, from Brookville. He's a VA boy.
Double A. Remember
Double
that.
A.
Remember that.
Remember that.
Your triple A is no match for our double A.
Don't talk about it. Triple A is where it's at, son. He was out in he's been out here all summer, or he's been out for like a year, as part of I believe a Christian mission, and he's been doing work in wrestling with some people. So he was a good contact coming in as well.
So what's next for Tim Foley other than preparing for this thing? Like, what are you about to do right now? Go to sleep? Shack up with a bunkmate? I don't know.
No, I don't. I have a lot of equipment on my person, and these bunks are sort of historically great places to get robbed. So I have a little cubby hole to myself tonight. That's pretty much what I'm going to do tonight. Wake up in the morning, brew some instant made coffee, and start sending emails and start pimping my project out as best I can. This I do want to say that I only have 7 days left on my Kickstarter, 8 days left on my Kickstarter maybe, which is the funding that I'm trying to get for the project. For the book project.
Find out more about that at wrestlingroots.org. Also, the site really taking shape. You've got some interesting blog posts there, not just your video, but as far as the documentation, you don't want to obviously give away too much about the book already.
Yeah.
But the blog is a great source. I've been checking it out. We've also got got some of your videos thrown up on the Matt.tv as well, as you're also throwing them over on Flow. So it's definitely going to be an interesting journey to watch from afar, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, that's the thing is, something that we've been talking about doing. I say there's just this really cool community who's reached out to me. A lot of Americans, but also people from around the world, just talking about putting together different programs. I think this is something that we can expand on, and we can start bringing interested parties and individuals to these foreign countries and showing them the power of wrestling and what role it occupies all around the world. I have a question for you, Jason.
What's that?
Maybe we can end on this. Why is it that we are the largest traditional wrestling population in the world, right?
Right.
Pretty much. I mean, 400,000 individuals, right?
I mean, you can make an argument with the Russians, but I mean, what is their traditional wrestling? Is it the current freestyle, or do they have sambo? I mean,
is it sambo? Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, they pretty much eliminated it in order to win gold medals. But here's the thing: so we have this enormous population of traditional wrestlers at the youth level. But what's our retention rate? Why is it that we get to, and this is my blog post today, it's like, why is it that we have 400,000 people, current kids currently wrestling, and yet our retention rate for the sport is, I don't know, into the 30s, it's got to be less than 1/10%.
And when you say retention rate, you mean actually competitive, or do you mean spectator-wise, or what? Active.
Spectators actively wrestling the rest.
So why do people stop wrestling after college, essentially, or even after high school?
After high school, yeah. I mean, we need to do as a sport, and obviously, I don't mean to try. I'm just launching ideas. That's what this whole thing's about. But as I've gone around the world in these different places, and especially Mongolia, they do everything possible to make sure that you wrestle into as long as you want. So there's I think out of this there's going to be I have a couple other ideas I want to launch, and I want to try to I just want to kind of change the idea behind wrestling. We're a hyper competitive culture, and wrestling therefore is hyper competitive. That's part of why it's our traditional wrestling style. But maybe we could do more to make it something that's amenable to people, even in their older ages. Like I'm 30. I couldn't step on a mat with these kids nowadays in the college wrestling. They'd tear me apart.
I could barely step on the mat with them when I was actually their age in high school, so I feel your pain.
I mean, it's such
save the intramural tournament at ODU in 2001, which I took 4th.
You took 4th?
Yeah, I had a 6.
How many people were in it?
6.
6.
Hey, I won a match.
Hey, man, it's fine. I just think that there's a lot to be learned by the activity of wrestling, and I want to see that promoted as well.
You know what? I think a day
not just fandom.
And I think a day after that tournament, we wrestled you guys at the field house, and that was ugly.
Oh, UVA?
No, who else would I consider we and you? Yes,
I thought maybe Columbia for a second, but
no, that was the battle of attrition years between Virginia and Old Dominion.
Oh yeah, okay, I gotcha.
By the way, Foley won that match. I think it was a major or tech.
Jesse.
No, this was you wrestled Robbie Gosnell. Anyway.
Oh yeah, I did.
Another guy from that Fredericksburg, Stafford area.
I don't know. I don't like the contempt you hold for my hometown. There's
I have no contempt for Stafford at all.
Did you know that George Washington grew up in Stafford County, Virginia? Boyhood home.
Yeah, let's pass the monument every time I drove north to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I announced the Eagle Holiday Classic at Forge a couple years up there. I mean, I got no problem with Stafford.
That's a good program right there, huh?
Got no problem with Stafford. I mean, let's see. Then there was North Stafford was good for a little while, and Brook Point. You guys are always a good dual team.
Until very recently, Brook Point had the most Division I wrestlers out of that area.
Yeah, but there's only one Brook Point All-American.
There's only one Stafford County All-American.
There's only one AA All-American.
Really?
Really, only one.
Oh, I know who it is. Wait, hold on.
It's from my high school. That should narrow it down. Okay.
Is it? I was gonna say Stith, but that's not true. It's Cox. Oh, it's little short kid.
No, definitely not.
I have no idea then.
John Morris, Lehigh, heavyweight, 1992. God, I have
no idea. Narrow it down. That takes. I would need Jarius J. Hammond for this one.
Quite possibly. Actually,
I couldn't know that.
We saw John Morris last week at the Hall of Fame. Anyway, it was when McCormick, the whole Pocosin crowd, we were there. It was like 7 Pocosin people there.
Oh, Mike McCormick, he's a UVA grad.
That he is.
Also a Hall of Famer.
And I think we're digressing to the point where the wrestling roots conversation is over. Nobody wants to hear us banter back and forth between old Virginia AA, AAA, ODU, UVA stories.
But hey, you know what? Tying it back in, that's the beauty. It's the beauty of physical tradition. We share this common bond. We can discuss it in a real way. And I've never been a baseball player, but I don't think that's how they talk about baseball.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head with that particular point. Solid finish, Mr. Foley. Solid finish.
Thank you.
So we will catch up to you, hopefully via Skype, depending on how choppy our interview is here. Again, this is the first time for us trying this thing.
Yeah.
And I had to hide my mugs, and nobody wants to see me talk and drink coffee while doing this thing. So
I'm not sure anybody wants to see my mug either, but I appreciate the lookout, and definitely, guys, weeks left on Kickstarter. $50 gets you an ebook, a book, and a T-shirt, which I'm losing money on. I think not much of a businessman. Camps go for $500, and tons of gifts at the $1,000, and if you feel so inclined, the $3,000 level. But I'm bringing back boots. I'm bringing back hats. I'm bringing back everything else, and any backing would be much appreciated. I have 7 days to raise the other half of this funding, and can hopefully write a book as opposed to writing articles about women's soccer, which I just wrote.
Anyway, we'll leave that one up to the listeners' imaginations in regards to your other writing.
Women's World Cup's this week, Jason.
Sorry, I hadn't noticed.
Okay.
Not trying to be sexist or anything. It's
that's okay.
It's soccer. I mean, I got a yellow card announcing a soccer game in high school. That's kind of the extent of my experience. That's another story, another time.
All right, brother.
Anyway, for Tim Foley, this is Jason Bryant and the WrestlingRoots.org. We'll see you soon.